What's up? Colby Sharp, 5th grade teacher in Michigan. Welcome to my channel where we try to help kids fall in love with reading. If you are new, consider subscribing to this channel so you can be notified whenever we talk about awesome books. And that's what we're going to be doing today. It's the end of the year, meaning that all of these end of the year book lists are coming out, and I love them because I see books that I loved on that list, and it makes me feel so validated as a reader that other people love the books that I loved as much as I did. And then I see books that I haven't read. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to add those books to my to-read list. I am the co-founder of the Nerdy Book Club with my good friend Donald Miller. And every year we have a Nerdy Book Club award where people from all over the world that work with kids and care truly deeply about the reading lives of young readers nominate their favorite books, and we create these nerdy awards in all kinds of different categories. I'll put a link in the description if you want to nominate your favorite books, and then I'll try to change it so you can see the award list when they are announced at the end of 2022. And when we make these lists and we nominate books, I of course nominate my favorites, and I like to talk about them in a video. So today, what I'm going to be talking about are 5 of my favorite middle grade fiction books. This is my favorite category. I love middle grade fiction. I live for middle grade fiction. I talk about middle grade fiction in this classroom all day, every day. It is awesome. These 5 books are the 5 books that I can't stop thinking about. They're 5 books that I know readers love, and I think that readers will love for a very, very long time. So let's do this. I'll also put a link to my best books page of the year with all of my favorite books from the year, and all of these books will, of course, be on that list. First up, Kelly Yang's New From Here. You probably know Kelly from her wildly successful book, Front Desk. New From Here looks at kids coming from Asia to live in the United States in the early stages of the COVID-19 global pandemic. And I'm going to be real, I haven't enjoyed reading any books that mention COVID at all. So I was pretty leery entering this book, but I love Kelly Yang's book, so I wanted to give it a chance. And I actually couldn't stop turning pages. I wasn't sick of reading about COVID while reading this. I was fascinated by this perspective. The way that these kids were treated when they came to this country was fascinating. I know so much of it is based on Kelly's family coming to the United States during that time. And this book is awesome. And I did not think, when I started making my list, I didn't anticipate that this book would be on my list. But the more I thought about it, the more I appreciated this book, the more I loved this book, the more I couldn't stop thinking about this book. So check out New From Here if you haven't. It's phenomenal. Next up, one of my favorite books in a long time, Natalie Lloyd's Hummingbird. The main character in this book is Olive, and she is homeschooled, and she really wants to go to school. She's begging to go to school. She has brittle bone syndrome. So there's this big fear of her getting injured at school, breaking bones, and just having to heal that, and that process is just awful. So she hasn't been able to go to school, but she begs her family, her mom and dad, who have such an interesting relationship. They're not like together. It's so interesting. She finally convinces them she gets to go to school. Something bad happens on the first day, but then there's this like town legend of a hummingbird being able to grant a wish, and it only comes by like after this event, this thing happens. And so like everyone, and like all of the kids especially, are like trying to figure out where the hummingbird is going to be so they can get their wish to come true. And like you're wondering, like, is this book realistic fiction? Is this book fantasy? You can't figure it out as a reader. And then like the way the story comes to a close, it will just blow your mind. It like is one of those things where like, how do they do that? Like, how did Natalie Lloyd put all these pieces together of this, what felt like a 10,000 piece puzzle, and they just fit perfectly and magically and wonderfully. If you haven't read Hummingbird, oh my gosh, you are in for a treat. And if you've read Hummingbird, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hummingbird, so good. Midnight Children by Dan Gemeinhart. He wrote The Honest Truth. He wrote Coyote Sunrise. Yeah, Coyote Sunrise. And he wrote this book, which from the opening pages until you turn the very last page is the most captivating book I have read in years. I was fascinated by this book. I was terrified by one of the characters. But this is the book that you must read, and it's kind of scary. There's some, not scary. Yeah, there's one character is kind of scary, but also like the dad works in like a slaughterhouse, and that might kind of creep out some kids, but I think this would be just the most magical read aloud. But I've had so many kids read it because it's just so good. So I'm not going to be able to read it aloud this year. Check this book out. You're going to be fascinated by the Midnight Children, learning their story, learning what they're all about. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. It's just like, I couldn't even possibly come close to describing how good this book is or how obsessed I have been with it since I read the first paragraph. It's all these months later. This book is so nerdy book club. There's no way this book doesn't make the nerdy book club list. Any teacher who's read it, I'm guessing, probably loved it. And kids definitely loved it. Midnight Children, so good. Next up, Thirst. Pernod Rip selected this as the, by Varsha Bajaj, selected this as the 2022 Global Read Aloud. And so I read it to my kids before the Global Read Aloud. Holy smokes. Wow. We even like pulled up, so it takes place in Mumbai. So we pulled up like Google Images and like the kids got to, I read it aloud. I said that, yeah. And the kids got to like see like how you go from poverty to rich in just like a line in the town, city. It's fascinating. The book is amazing, like how important water is, but how also important class is in different places in the world. We had some just deep and meaningful and important conversations. It's one of those books, like when you read it aloud to kids, it's just a forever book. It's forever in their hearts and their soul and like who they become as people. Thirst, check it out. And finally, A Rover Story by Jasmine Morga. I feel like this could win the Newbery Medal. Rover here, we got this rover here, and going to Mars, and it takes place over like years, but it's told from like the rover's point of view. And also you get like letters from this kid whose mom is like in charge of this whole project, and the kid is writing letters to the rover, and like, but the kid like grows up, like it takes place over like a super long period of time, even like part of the journey, from like before the journey to what happens after the journey, and you get to like experience it from Resilience's point of view. That's the name of the rover. And I was just like, holy smokes, like what kid wouldn't like this? I haven't read it aloud, but I really want to. And it's actually not in my classroom library. You can see the books in my classroom library. They have these little stickers. It's not level. Of course, it's not level. It's like the stickers of where they go in the classroom. But this book isn't, because I'm hiding it in my closet because I want to read it aloud. And I don't want any of those little buggers to read it before I can. So yeah, Rover's Story. You have to read it. It's phenomenal. So these are 5 of the books that I am nominating for the middle grade fiction portion of the library. If you're subscribed to this channel, you'll be notified the next time I post a video. I'm going to probably do one on picture books and graphic novels, nonfiction, picture books, maybe even poetry. There's some just great books in 2022. And be sure to check out the Nerdy Book Club so that you can find out all the awesome books. And again, I'll put so many things to talk about. There's so much excitement in books. I'll put that link to my favorite books of the year list so you can see. I think there's like 60 or 70 books on there. Anyways, my name is Colby Sharp. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have an awesome-tastic day.